Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another Morning Coffee Talks. Hey, shout out to my father-in-law. He sent me a video from Facebook. It was a post from a guy who it was a single man. He had been married but divorced, and he was delivering packages. And one of the houses that he went up to, he delivered a soccer ball and some cones. Obviously, you need a couple cones like you're kicking it in a goal, so for to be able to be practice on. And as he was leaving this house that he delivered to, a father and a little boy came from behind the house to greet him or whatever. And he was able to hand over the soccer ball and the cones to the little boy. And before he left, him and the father, just had some small talk, just saying that, hey man, I have kids. They played, I think he said football or whatever, football, basketball, one of those sports, and they just kind of, spoke over that a little bit. But before he left, the little boy was just so excited and just so thankful that he asked, can he get a hug from the delivery guy? And obviously he asked the father, hey, is that okay? The father was like, sure, man. So the little boy gave the delivery driver, a really embraceful hug. And he thanked the guy and the son, and he left. But once he got in the car, he said, it just really touched him in a way where he really broke down and started crying because again, he had been recently divorced, and he just haven't been embraced like that in a while. And so, that's just the topic I want to talk about today. It's a lot of men out there, many men out there who are really starving for real connection. And a lot of times they won't even admit it, you know? And so I really want to talk about why so many men just feel that they're starving for real connection. They feel unseen, unloved, and why? How do you even get there? And so it's just incredible that a grown man, getting a hug from a little boy, can bring you to that emotional state. You know, just that small act of affection hit him harder than anything he's felt in a long time. And again, just to reiterate, a lot of men are walking around and starving for real connection. They're starving for love. They're starving for touch, for validation. And some know it and some don't even realize it. Right. So let's really look into that. Why is it that there's this kind of invisible starvation, right? I think that starting off, a lot of times society tells men, you gotta be strong, you gotta be tough, you gotta be unbreakable. But what they don't tell you is that in that process, men get isolated, right? You stop getting hugs, you stop hearing, hey, I appreciate you. You stop feeling like, anybody really sees you. And then, one real hug from a random kid kind of breaks you down. And it hits that nerve that a lot of times you ignore for many years, right? And so again, men aren't starving for food, they're starving for connection. And I think that again, many men won't admit it. And it could be a situation where, you know, the fear of appearing weak. Again, society tells men that, hey, any like craving for affection is a kind of a sign of softness, right? Or hey, you're ashamed for asking for it. You don't want to be seen as needy or desperate. So a lot of times you don't say anything. A lot of men just go quiet. Um, and I think that men often assume that their struggle is obvious. But the truth of the matter, man, listen, a lot of men are invisible out here. Nobody's paying attention. That's just the honest God truth. Society caters to everybody else, and truth be told, not to men. But if you don't ask for it, I think that people assume you don't need it, and so the more and more you stay silent, the more and more that turns into loneliness. And there's a cost behind this, man. There's a cost behind emotional starvation, right? When men go years without feeling seen, touched, valued, right, it's going to show up in many ways as things like emotional numbness, right? You really get to a state where you stop feeling anything at all. There's another side where there's a lot of angry outbursts, right? You're not mad about the small stuff, but you're mad because you feel empty, right? You start to get into like risky behavior, seeking thrills and escapism to feel alive. You start, going to the extreme just to feel something when you had nothing, right? There's no balance in your life. There's no consistency of that feeling to kind of keep you level. And so you go to each extreme sides of the spectrum. And I think the biggest thing that most men are in right now is depression. And you look at the suicide rates, throughout the U.S., a lot of men are still single. A lot of men never even touched a woman, which is incredible. A lot of men didn't have that love from their mom to understand what that may look like. You know what I mean? So you just feel unworthy of love, connection, and a lot of time basic affection. And I think that's where a lot of men get into that state of depression. And so I would just say, men don't cry because they're weak. They cry because they're starving for something real, you know? So I would say I can't even say from my experience, but I've had touch points of feeling not having that connection. And every man goes through it on some level, and there's different extremes, right? Depending on where you fall on the pendulum. But I think there's a way to fill that void without feeling weak, right? I think there's a way that you don't need a random hug to feel alive. And I think that a way that I would go about it, a way that I have went about it, is connect with old friends, right? Maybe shoot a text, even make a call. A 5 minute conversation with someone that who care about you, maybe even love you, can remind you that you matter, man. Just having a touch point with a friend or something like that. Another thing, you could join a group or community, church group, gym. I go to Toastmasters. That's around different people that's different from me, right? But we've built relationships. And I think that's good just to be around other people sometimes, just in a positive environment. And if you are in a relationship, asking your partner for what you need. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes just speaking up goes a long way. Kind of maybe you saying, hey, I've been feeling kind of isolated lately. I can really use some affection. And a lot of times, everybody's so busy that it may not even be intentional. And it's like, wow, man, I just been going. I haven't showed my husband or, my partner some love. And that'll go a long way just asking for it. If you have kids, hug your kids, dap up your boys, man, pat somebody on the back. That small gesture can be powerful. Just that connection of touch, right? And lastly, give what you want. Put that energy out there in the world too. If you're craving affection or connection, give it first. You know what I mean? Sometimes it comes back, and you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised how a lot of times it does come back. Just by giving that energy out, that positive energy, right? It's not weak to say that you need connection, man. It's a human thing. Everybody needs it. It don't matter where you from or what your experience been. So again, most men out here are starving for connection, not for food or for money, for connection, right? They're starving for touch. They're starving for a simple, hey, you appreciate it. So if that's you, again, maybe watch this video again and see where you kind of fall. See if those last things I said can help you. I just think it goes a long way. So, but shout out to my father-in-law, man, for sending that video. I'm glad I was able to share that with you guys today. Drop a comment below. Tell me what y'all think about it. Also, subscribe to the Husband Code if it's your first time. If you've been watching for a while, subscribe. Also, if you got any value from this video, hit the like button. And also hit that notification bell because we're dropping videos like this on the regular. So until next time, I appreciate y'all. Y'all stay up. Much love. Peace.